Welcome to our deep dive into this clash that I think still echoes today.
Hmm.
The 1965 debate between James Baldwin and William F.
Buckley.
Buckley Jr. at Cambridge University.
Yeah.
We've got the archival audio from that night.
Right.
We've got some firsthand accounts.
Yeah.
And we have insights from Professor Nicholas Buckley's book, The Fire is Upon Us.
Wonderful book.
So are you ready to kind of be transported back to this moment?
Absolutely. I think it's not just a debate.
Yeah.
It's a window into how America was wrestling with its identity in the heat of the civil rights movement.
Okay, so picture this, a packed hall at Cambridge, February 1965.
Mm-hmm.
The Civil Rights Act had just passed, but the struggle was far from over.
Yes.
In fact, the events unfolding at that time made this debate even more significant, I think.
You're right. Just days later, Malcolm X would be assassinated.
Oh, wow.
And the Selma to Montgomery marches for voting rights were about to begin,
Right.
really putting the brutality of segregation on full display for the world to see. This backdrop really adds another layer of intensity to the events, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. And into this charged atmosphere step two figures with vastly different backgrounds and viewpoints.
Yeah.
On one side, you have James Baldwin, this fiery voice of the civil rights movement.
Baldwin's upbringing in Harlem profoundly shaped his worldview.
Right.
He witnessed firsthand the systemic forces that crushed his own father,
Yeah,
a man who migrated from the South seeking a better life,
of course.
only to find another form of oppression.
And it wasn't just his father. He saw how the entire community was being systematically disadvantaged.
Yes.
And this experience really fueled his journey from child preacher to literary powerhouse, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Baldwin discovered the power of language
Mm-hmm.
to connect, to reveal truth, and to challenge injustice.
Yeah.
He later moved to France,
Right.
gaining an outsider's perspective on America's racial dynamics.
Yeah.
This distance allowed him to see and articulate the deep-seated issues
Right.
with clarity that many within the system couldn't or wouldn't acknowledge.
And then on the other side of the stage, you have William F. Buckley Jr., this sharp-tongued conservative icon.
Buckley was a fascinating figure. A Catholic amidst the predominantly Protestant WSSP establishment.
Right.
He was an insider-outsider, a contrarian even within his own circles.
Yeah.
His family, deeply conservative,
Mm-hmm.
instilled in him a duty to defend the existing social order.
Right.
This upbringing is evident in his controversial 1957 editorial, Why the South Must Prevail.
Why the South Must Prevail. Now, that's a title you don't hear every day.
Especially not in 1957.
Especially not in 1957, yeah.
It was a bold and to many deeply offensive defense of segregation.
Wow.
In it, Buckley argued that white Southerners, being in the majority and possessing a more advanced culture, had the right to maintain their political and social dominance.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how this editorial must have contrasted with Baldwin's vision of equality.
Oh, it's like they were coming from completely different planets.
Yeah.
Both brilliant, both masters of language, but their views on race and the American dream were diametrically opposed.
Absolutely.
It's no wonder their debate at Cambridge was such a highly anticipated event.
And the setting itself, the Cambridge Union Debate Society,
Right.
adds another layer of intrigue.
Yeah.
This is the world's oldest debating society,
Mm.
a training ground for British elites.
So you had this very formal, almost ritualistic setting,
Yeah.
and then you inject this incredibly charged American issue into the mix.
Right.
It must felt like a pressure cooker.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You could almost feel the weight of expectations,
Yeah.
the tension in the air.
Mm-hmm.
The audience, a mix of students and faculty, knew they were witnessing something historic.
Yeah.
It was more than just a debate.
Right.
It was a clash of ideologies, a battle for the soul of America,
Oh.
playing out on an international stage.
And then Baldwin takes the stage.
Yes.
Now, from everything I read about him, I imagine him launching into a fiery condemnation of racial injustice.
Mm.
But his approach was surprisingly different, wasn't it?
Yes. Baldwin was a master of rhetoric.
Right.
He understood that simply railing against injustice wouldn't persuade the audience,
Right.
especially in that setting.
Yeah.
Instead, he did something far more powerful.
Okay.
He highlighted the moral cost of white supremacy, not just for the oppressed,
Yeah.
but for the oppressors as well.
That's such an interesting point. He wasn't just talking about the victims. He was talking about the perpetrators,
Yeah,
arguing that they too were damaged by this system.
precisely.
Yeah.
One of the most striking moments is when he uses the analogy of Sheriff Jim Clark,
Right.
a notorious symbol of segregationist brutality.
Mm-hmm.
and his use of cattle prods against civil rights demonstrators.
Oh, I remember reading about that in Buckley's book. It's
Yeah.
such a visceral image.
Baldwin argues that while Clark's victims suffer physically,
Right.
Clark himself suffers a deeper, more insidious wound.
Mm.
He's trapped in a system that requires him to dehumanize others in order to maintain his own sense of self, his own warped version of identity.
And this brings us to one of the most powerful lines in Baldwin's entire speech.
Yes.
I picked the cotton and I carried it to market, and I built the railroads under someone else's whip for nothing. For nothing.
That line is more than just a statement. It's a gut punch.
Yeah.
It encapsulates the intergenerational trauma of slavery and its lasting legacy.
Mm-hmm.
The exploitation that permeated American society, both past and present.
Yeah.
He was personalizing history,
Right.
forcing the audience to confront the human cost of their nation's past.
Wow. So how did Buckley respond to this?
Buckley, as you might expect, countered with logic and reason.
Mm-hmm.
He leaned heavily on the idea of social and economic mobility,
Right.
arguing that Black Americans could achieve the American dream by working within the existing system.
Mm-hmm.
He even suggested somewhat flippantly that perhaps more white people should be disenfranchised.
That's interesting. Wasn't that a serious proposal he'd made in his earlier writings?
Yes, he had actually advocated for disenfranchising less educated white voters in the South,
Right.
believing they were easily manipulated by demagogues.
Mm-hmm.
It was a controversial idea then,
Yeah.
and it certainly didn't sit well with everyone in the audience that night.
But beyond the specific arguments, there's something about Buckley's tone that strikes me as off.
Many observers at the time noted a certain condescension in Buckley's delivery,
Right.
a sense that he was speaking from a position of intellectual and social superiority.
Almost like he couldn't fully grasp the lived experiences of those who were systematically denied the opportunities he'd always enjoyed.
Perhaps, and this difference in tone
Yeah.
and their ability to connect with the audience on an emotional level
Right.
might have played a significant role in how the debate ultimately unfolded.
Okay, so let's talk about the outcome.
Okay.
We know Baldwin won,
Yes.
but I'm curious about the specifics.
Mhm.
What happened when the votes were tallied?
Well, before we get to the vote, there's a moment right after Baldwin finishes speaking that is truly remarkable.
Hold that thought because I think that's a perfect place to pause for now.
Okay.
We'll pick up the story and delve deeper into the debate's aftermath in part 2 of our deep dive.
Sounds good. As I was saying, there's this moment right after Baldwin finishes speaking that really captures the essence of his impact.
You're talking about the standing ovation, right?
Yes. The audience at the Cambridge Union,
Right.
known for their decorum and reserved nature, erupts in applause.
Yeah.
People are on their feet, cheering, their faces filled with emotion.
Great.
It's a spontaneous outpouring of support, a testament to the power of Baldwin's words.
A standing ovation at the Cambridge Union.
Yeah.
That's almost unheard of, isn't it?
It's incredibly rare, and it speaks volumes about how deeply Baldwin moved the audience.
Yeah.
Even Buckley, in his memoirs, admitted that at that moment he knew the night wasn't going his way.
And he was right. The vote was overwhelmingly in Baldwin's favor.
Yeah.
Something like 544 to 163.
Wow.
But I get the feeling that for Baldwin, the real victory wasn't just about the numbers.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
The true victory lies in the enduring power of his message.
Right.
His ability to articulate the complexities of race and identity in a way that resonated with people then and continues to resonate with us today.
It's interesting, though, because while Baldwin's words clearly struck a chord with the audience at Cambridge,
Yeah.
his opponent, William F. Buckley Jr., went on to have a very successful career.
Mm-hmm.
He ran for mayor of New York City,
Right.
albeit unsuccessfully, and then he hosted Firing Line for over 3 decades.
Buckley was a master of using media to his advantage.
Right.
Firing Line became a platform for him to engage in spirited and sometimes heated debates
Yeah.
with a wide range of guests, from politicians to intellectuals to activists.
Right.
He relished the opportunity to challenge conventional wisdom and provoke discussion, even if it meant alienating some viewers.
So did Baldwin ever appear on Firing Line?
Surprisingly, no.
Wow.
There's no record of Baldwin ever being a guest on Buckley's show. Yeah. It makes you wonder what their relationship was like after that night at Cambridge.
Yeah.
Did they ever speak again?
Right.
Did they develop any kind of mutual respect
Mm-hmm.
despite their profound ideological differences.
It's a question that historians have debated for years.
Mm-hmm.
Some believe they maintained a cordial, if distant, relationship.
Right.
Others argue that their differences were simply too great to overcome.
Right.
And then there's the mystery of the lost debate.
Ah, yes. The 1965 televised debate between Baldwin and Buckley
Right?
that was supposed to air on the David Susskind show, but unfortunately,
What happened? Fill me in.
it seems the recording of that debate is lost to history.
Oh, no.
The Susskind show at that time had a habit of taping over episodes
Right.
to save money on videotape.
Oh, what a loss for us.
Yeah,
Imagine the insights we could have gained from that conversation
right.
to see these two intellectual giants go at it again, this time on a national stage, with even higher stakes.
It's a tantalizing what if for history buffs.
Yeah.
We have some anecdotal accounts and notes from those who were present,
Right.
but the actual debate footage remains elusive.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a lost chapter in the story of the civil rights movement.
So while we may never know what transpired during that lost debate, we do know that both Baldwin and Buckley continued to shape the national conversation on race and identity for decades to come.
Yes.
Baldwin, through his powerful writing and speeches,
Mm-hmm.
forced America to confront its uncomfortable truths.
Yeah.
And Buckley, through his media-savvy and provocative arguments,
Right.
pushed back against what he saw as the excesses of the left.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating how these two figures, so different in their backgrounds and beliefs,
Yeah.
ended up playing such pivotal roles in shaping the American dialogue on race.
Absolutely.
Their clash at Cambridge wasn't just a historical footnote. It was a pivotal moment that continues to inform our understanding of the challenges and complexities we face as a nation.
Mm.
And as we look back on this debate nearly 60 years later, I can't help but wonder how Baldwin and Buckley's arguments might resonate in our current times.
Right.
We're still grappling with issues of race equality and the meaning of the American dream.
Yes.
In many ways, the conversation they started back in 1965 is still unfolding today. You know, it's striking how relevant this debate from 1965 feels today. We're still grappling with the same questions about race equality and opportunity. Baldwin's words about the unfulfilled promise of the American dream, for so many, they still hit hard.
It's a testament to his insights, his ability to cut through the surface and expose those underlying tensions within American society.
Yeah.
He understood that the American dream, this idea of upward mobility and individual success, couldn't be truly realized as long as systemic barriers prevented entire communities from accessing those opportunities.
But then you have Buckley's perspective, his emphasis on individual responsibility and working within the system. He believed that change, while necessary, had to happen gradually through existing institutions.
And that's the tension, isn't it?
Yeah.
The urgency of Baldwin's call for justice, clashing with the complexities of navigating the very systems that Buckley sought to defend. It's a tension that we still feel today in our political and social discourse.
So where does this leave us? What can we learn from this historical clash that can help us navigate these complex issues in the present? What stood out to you the most from our deep dive?
For me, it's Baldwin's unwavering belief in the power of human connection. Even in his sharpest critiques, he never lost sight of our shared humanity. He recognized the ways in which prejudice and discrimination harm both the oppressor and the oppressed, how they diminish our collective potential as a society.
That's such a crucial point. It's so easy to fall into the trap of us versus them thinking, especially in today's polarized climate. But Baldwin reminds us that true progress requires empathy, understanding, and a willingness to see the world through the eyes of those who are different from us.
Exactly, and that's where I think Buckley's perspective also has value. While we must challenge injustice and work towards systemic change, we also have to engage with the existing systems, understand how they operate, and find ways to work within them to create meaningful change.
It's like we need both Baldwin's moral clarity and Buckley's pragmatic approach
Okay.
to truly move forward. It's a delicate balance, but one that's essential if we want to create a more just and equitable society.
And that's the beauty of engaging with history,
Yeah.
is these powerful voices from the past.
Right.
It helps us sharpen our own thinking, challenge our assumptions, and gain a deeper understanding of the issues that we face today.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Baldwin-Buckley debate, I want to leave you with a question.
Okay.
What does the American dream mean to you? And what role do you see yourself playing in ensuring that its promise is accessible to all, regardless of their background or circumstances?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
The American dream is a powerful ideal, but it's up to each of us to define what it means and to work towards making it a reality for everyone.
That's it for our deep dive this week. We hope you found it insightful and thought provoking. If you're interested in learning more, we encourage you to check out the full debate online and explore Baldwin's incredible body of work. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep the conversation going.